Hello fellow Kickstarters, my name is Jose Dorville, and it is my pleasure to present to you the shoot 'em up project called Trigger.
Trigger is a bullet hell shoot 'em up game inspired mostly by the 1990s gaming era. The game consists of shooting enemies and dodging hundreds of enemy bullets on the game's 6 stages, while obtaining high scores for the leaderboards.
Let's kick things off by giving you guys details as to how Trigger came to be.
It all started back in 1994 with a Sega Genesis title called Contra Hard Corps, a game that greatly inspired me to create Trigger. In my early years of gaming, I was already a fan of Contra for the NES, but when this game hit the Sega Genesis platform, it blew me away with its graphics, music, and phenomenal boss design. Then in 1998, I was yet again inspired by a game called Radiant Silvergun, a Sega Saturn shoot 'em up game that had an intriguing story, interesting characters, and high difficulty. I was into the shoot 'em up genre back then, and I am still into it now. As my interest swayed towards illustration and design, I became deeply committed to the art form known as anime. Anime, in general, is an interesting style of art that gave me the freedom to design compelling characters for the story of Trigger.
Let's talk about the main mechanics of the game. First, we have the flexible difficulty system.
The flexible difficulty system will expand the length of a stage based on the player's overall performance. To make this system work, Trigger has 6 stages in total, with 1 additional stage for the confrontation with the final boss. Each stage has a total of 3 layers. These layers will only be available depending on the player's performance. To illustrate how this system works, allow me to provide this one example. Stage 1, Layer 1. Stage 1 is divided into 3 layers. Layer 1 will be the first of 3 layers the player can access and will have a casual difficulty with some easy to guess enemy patterns and a final stage boss at the end. However, at the end of this layer, the player's score and enemy kill count will be taken into consideration, to which the game will give the player a grade. According to this, the game will either end at Stage 1, Layer 1 and move on to Stage 2, Layer 1, or it will continue to Stage 1, Layer 2. Stage 1, Layer 2. The second layer of any of the 6 stages brings up the difficulty. The player will deal with much more elaborated enemy patterns, environmental obstacles, and a more difficult boss battle at the end of the layer. Once the player is successful and finishes Layer 2, the game will factor in the gamer's performance and will either allow the player to continue onto Stage 2, Layer 1, or it will move the player onto the 3rd layer of this stage. Stage 1, Layer 3. This is by far the most difficult layer of Stage 1. Layer 3's difficulty is again much more punishing. At the end of Layer 3 is the final stage boss. If the boss is defeated, the player will be moved onto the next stage, Stage 2, Layer 1.
It is not necessary to finish all of the layers of each stage to reach the end of the game, but there are rewards to those players who are able to do so. Perks such as bonus score points with leaderboards, images in the gallery section, pieces of information that will reveal more about the story behind the events in the game. You can even unlock new ships, much more powerful than the standard ones, to be used in the main game. This game is hard. From the start, I wanted to make the most difficult game possible. And while it may not be a good idea to make a highly difficult game for those who are casual gamers, I just want to fill in that empty void of difficult games in a saturated environment of games that are too kind to players. For that reason, the players will be granted only 1 life per run, meaning the player's ship will be destroyed if it comes into contact with an enemy bullet. And that's it, game over. The player will start back on Stage 1, Layer 1. However, I am always careful when I say I want a difficult game. Difficulty in games should not equal to stressful gameplay or confusing mechanics or unpredictable enemy patterns. Players will be able to increase their success rate based on proper memorization of enemy patterns and to use all of the tools provided to succeed in the battle against relentless enemies. To do this, the game offers the following tools.
Because the game provides only 1 life per run, I have developed a system to mitigate the enemy bullets and help players win the game. This is in the form of trance mode. There are 2 varieties of trance mode, one called defense and the other, naturally, called offense. Trance Mode Defense allows the player to repel all enemy bullets for a short period of time. This works when the Trance Mode Defense bar is full and an enemy bullet hits the player's ship. This will instantly activate a shield around the player's ship that will last approximately 5 seconds. The defense bar is filled once every few seconds, so there will be a short period of time when the ship is totally vulnerable to enemy fire. Unlike Trance Mode Defense, the Trance Mode Offense bar is filled with enemy kill count. In other words, every time the player destroys an enemy ship, they are awarded with one piece of the full bar. With every few kills, the player will have a full bar to use against the enemy. Once the bar is full, the player can unleash a special attack. This will freeze the screen for 1 second and bring a powerful attack to all enemies on screen, gaining additional score points for each kill while providing a few seconds of precious invulnerability. All available ships have their own distinct fighting mechanics. At the beginning of the game, the player will have access to 3 ships. Each ship attacks differently, and their use will largely depend on the player's style. The basic one will be Enigma, which shoots 2 thin laser beams at the enemy, with long range but not so great damage. Then there is Proto, which has shorter range bullets, but they explode in contact, providing an extra hit to the enemies it comes in contact with. And last but not least is the Zero, which is by far the most challenging of the 3, and is more of a melee aircraft with extremely limited range, but provides more damage than the others.
It's extremely disappointing for current games to omit cheat codes. They were fun and added an extra layer of mystery to the games back then. There are cheat codes in Trigger, and these will unlock additional features in the game, but it is up to the player to discover these hidden codes.
I am an anime artist, so it is natural for Trigger to have this style of artwork. It is my goal to provide captivating visual candy to the game with beautiful render backgrounds using a mix of pixel art, 3D objects, and hand-drawn illustrations.
Trigger is a love letter to shoot 'em up genre lovers, and I can't wait to complete the project to allow you guys to play. However, the game cannot be completed without the help from Kickstarter. If you take a look at the tiers to the right of this page, you can see the various ways to contribute to the success of this game. You will not give your hard-earned cash for this project and just receive an empty thanks in return. No, you're really buying the game and getting amazing stuff in return.
You get the game, the art book, a music CD with all the tracks of the game, and a 3 feet by 2 feet Black Gator board poster, or an even larger 3 feet by 4 feet Black Gator board poster for those who really want to contribute. Those who are generous in contributing to our game will also have the contributor's name on the game's ending credits.
Thanks everyone for watching this video. Hopefully this Kickstarter project becomes a success and we can finally see this game reach its full potential. Thanks everyone for your time, and let's make this happen, Kickstarters.